Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. I was hired by a company as an assistant manager, a job for which I was well qualified. The owner was rarely on site as he owned several businesses. The company was run by a GM who hired me but worked mostly on the second shift, so I would have little daily contact with her since I was hired for the first shift. I was assigned to Eva for training. Eva was a manager and had been with the company for 5 years. I trained with her for a few days, and then I was on my own, though she and I had overlapping shifts and would see each other a few days a week. We were friendly, but not close. After a few months, I was doing well at my job and had even gotten some new procedures adopted to help boost sales. Eva began to act resentful. She would correct me for small things and took any opportunity to remind me that she had trained me. It didn't matter to me. She wasn't my boss. I reported to the GM. So I mostly just ignored her. What I didn't know was that Eva was not just tight with the GM. They had worked together at another place for 10 years before this one. One day at shift end, the GM asked to talk to me. She told me it wasn't working out, said I was still making mistakes at 6 months that I shouldn't be. I asked for examples. A few of them were petty matters Eva had mentioned, but most of them were just not true. I tried to argue, but it was clear that I was set up. I decided to reach out to the owner since I had nothing to lose. He was sympathetic, but said he relied on the GM to run the business and had to support her decision. Then he mentioned that if things hadn't been so bad between me and Eva, it probably could have been worked out. That's when I knew she was behind my being fired from a job I needed, really liked, and was making great money, and I vowed to get revenge. I started searching for her online information. In less than an hour, I had uncovered gold thanks to one of those pay services. About 3 months prior, Eva was arrested and charged with DWI in a neighboring state. The court records showed she had a hearing coming up in a few weeks. That was enough to get her fired. It affects a professional license she and I had to have as management. Per state law, license holders must report criminal charges to the licensing board, and in the case of a DWI arrest, licenses are typically suspended pending trial. I called the owner and told him what I discovered. It was news to him. I guess since it was out of state, Eva was keeping it secret. Maybe she was hoping to get let off the charges. The next day, the owner called and said Eva was fired. He thanked me for telling him about her DWI, apologized for how I was fired, and offered me Eva's position and salary. He asked me to come in the next morning to meet with him and to cover Eva's shift. I accepted. That alone was sweetly satisfying revenge, but what happened next was the icing on the cake. I got to work extra early, met with the owner and GM, and we all agreed to start fresh. Cool. It was still an hour before opening, and I was in the back of the place when I heard the front door chime. When I came out a few minutes later, Eva was there, tears flowing, begging the owner for her job back. She obviously didn't know I was there because when she saw me, her whole body seized, and her shocked expression was priceless. I walked right by her, staring her down with a crafty grin, and went outside. Eva came out a minute later and wouldn't make eye contact. As she walked away, I said, "Good luck on the 23rd. That was her court date. Over the next few months, I flourished in my new role. I introduced several new strategies that improved sales and cut costs, and the owner was very pleased. I received a generous bonus for my efforts. One day, a few months later, I received a call from Eva. She was sobbing uncontrollably, begging me for forgiveness. I could hear the desperation in her voice. I was enjoying this, and so I told her that I had moved on, but that she should never underestimate someone's ability to get revenge. I hung up and went back to work, feeling satisfied that justice had been served. I knew that I had won, and that Eva would never be able to get the best of me again. The next one is an entitled People story. My name is Lily, and I recently moved to a new neighborhood with my husband and our 2 children. The neighborhood was managed by a local HOA. But we were fortunate enough to have a house that fell outside the range of their control. We were excited to have more freedom than our neighbors, but little did we know that this would attract the attention of Karen, the self-appointed neighborhood police. Our first encounter with Karen was when we were unloading our moving truck. She came over to us, accusing us of being intruders and questioning who we were and what we were doing. Despite our attempts to explain our situation, she refused to listen and left us feeling uneasy and unwelcome. Over the next few weeks, Karen continued to make our lives difficult. She would leave HOA materials at our doorstep, issue us fines for minor grievances, and even called the police on us when our children were playing in our own backyard pool. It seemed like she was constantly watching us and waiting for us to slip up. One day, my husband and I decided to go to the local city hall to get more information about the HOA and why our house was exempt. We discovered that our house was built before the HOA was established, and therefore was not subject to their rules and regulations. Armed with this knowledge, we felt more empowered to stand up to Karen's harassment, but things only got worse. Karen started to spread rumors about us to our neighbors, telling them that we were troublemakers and didn't belong in the neighborhood. We tried to ignore her, but it was hard when we knew that she was turning our neighbors against us. Then one night, we were woken up by a loud banging on our front door. It was Karen, demanding that we let her in. We refused, but she wouldn't take no for an answer. She started to yell and threaten us, and we knew that we had to call the police. When the police arrived, Karen was still outside of our house, screaming and causing a scene. They arrested her for disorderly conduct, but we knew that this wouldn't be the end of it. A few days later, we received a letter in the mail from Karen's lawyer, threatening to sue us for harassment and emotional distress. We were shocked and scared, but we knew that we had done nothing wrong. We hired a lawyer ourselves, and after a long and stressful legal battle, the case was dismissed. But Karen wasn't done yet. One night, while we were sleeping, someone broke into our house and stole some of our belongings. We were devastated and scared. We suspected that it was Karen, but we couldn't prove it. The police investigation turned up no leads, and we were left feeling vulnerable and unsafe in our own home. We decided that we needed to move for the safety and well-being of our family. Thankfully, we were able to find a new home in a different neighborhood. We've been here for a few months now, and we feel much happier and more at peace. We've learned a lot from our experience with Karen, and we're grateful that we were able to stand up for ourselves and come out stronger on the other side. And as for Karen, we've heard through the grapevine that she was eventually forced to move out of the neighborhood after too many complaints from her neighbors. We can only hope that she's learned something from this experience and that she'll never treat anyone else the way she treated us. The next one is a petty revenge story. So, my dear old mother has been my personal hell for as long as I can remember. It started with her threatening to hit me with a bottle, then trying to break down my door while screaming obscenities at me. She even hit me over the head with an umbrella and yelled at me when I cried. I was 11 at the time. She blamed me for my sister's divorce, which happened when I was 6. For years, left for 3 months without warning, and then acted entitled to my forgiveness when she came back. She's thrown things at me, broken 3 TVs, and called me a myriad of names, ranging from mild things like useless waste of space to actual curses. The worst thing is that she acts like she's the best mom in existence around other people. She compliments me and stuff, and I can't have a support system because no one would believe me if I told them how awful she is. But I've had an ace up my sleeve for 2 years now. I've secretly recorded videos and audios of every horrible moment and kept them in a safe folder. I have recordings of the moments mentioned above and lots more of her talking crap about neighbors, friends, and even her own eldest child behind their back. Tonight, I'm packing for uni. By morning, the entire folder will reach multiple people, including my half-siblings, aunts, uncles, neighbors, her besties, etc. Bad luck and a worse day, Mother. You always said justice is better served cold. The next one is a petty revenge story. Mother-in-law has always been bitter that I took her son away from her. She's the queen of negging, and I am often her #1 target. She loves to make me jealous. She sends pictures of her new cars, new house, and designer handbags saying, "Isn't it great I can afford all this?" Last summer, mother-in-law invited her other son, his girlfriend, and the girlfriend's sister on vacation, but not us. She bought them designer souvenirs and sent us pictures every day of their vacation, captioned, "I bet you're so jealous." Not 3 months later, my parents invited us on their vacation, and we accepted. Mother-in-law was furious. Jealousy is not a good look on her. She threw a tantrum, saying she was losing her little boy and that she wanted to be the best mom in the world. She was so jealous that my mother was getting more attention than her. She cried about how she never sees us and how we've always shown blatant favoritism toward my parents. The best part of all this? It was at this moment that my significant other decided to tell her that we are moving 5 hours away to my parents' city. The next one is a pro-revenge story. What's better than calling the cops on your sweet little old neighbor's heroin addict grandson for stealing your Amazon package? In July, my elderly neighbor had her grandson and pregnant girlfriend move in to help them out. She is a widowed lady in her 70s, babbles a lot, but sweet. I have a soft spot for her. Years ago, she cornered me as I was leaving to take my dog on a walk. My dog was unhappily pacing, waiting for the walk while we listened to her stories. He peed on her during the story. She is so senile she didn't notice. Just a few days later, I am mowing my backyard and the grandson walks past my house carrying an Amazon envelope. Weird. An hour later, the sweet little old lady comes over with the envelope her grandson had. This was in my landscaping. I had totally forgotten that I ordered my kids the movie Leap. What a crap haul for this kid. See, I am a criminal defense attorney. Probably the only one this lady knows. If I call the cops, my neighbor will try to hire me. It'll get weird. She is so sweet. I will be a witness. He is on probation, so he will sit in jail for a while. This will totally make me look like a snitch to my own clients in that same jail who are thieves, addicts, and burglars. It's bad personally and professionally, and it's not the biggest deal. So I filled up an Amazon box with purple rain powder that was ordered to my office. A dry dye that gets darker and spreads when it comes into contact with your sweat. That lasts a week on your skin. Think leaking pen times 50. Why? I want to shame him and it won't come back on me. He's not going to call the cops for stealing my crap. He isn't going to tell his grandma he stole from me. And if it makes a mess in her house, it's still cheaper for her than hiring a lawyer and paying her grandson's court costs and fines. Yep, the package was gone in 20 minutes. I walked past the home, screams of anger at the pregnant girlfriend. This crap won't come off. It's all over my grandma's house. Priceless. The following day, I gave him the head nod as he smoked a cigarette in a hoodie in July. He ran inside. Then I taught my kids to yell Smurf when we walked past. No snitching, just shame. The next one is an entitled people story. First time poster here, and I'm still in awe of the audacity of some people. I've read about entitled people, but outside of my school, I've never been in contact with any of them long enough to deal with them. That was until recently. Also, forgive me for any grammatical errors as I am writing on my tablet. I, 33M, am an ELA teacher based in China for the last 3.5 years. First, a little bit of information before I get to the story. There is a bit of a pay gap between foreign and Chinese teachers. It's also a well-known fact, but only the most opportunistic ones like to capitalize on it from time to time, if you're not careful. It can be anything from charging more at stands to, on the rarest of rare occasions, guilting them into complying. Trust me, it has happened, and those select few are not apologetic about it. Now, on to the story. It was Chinese New Year, and I was on the train to Chongqing to visit a friend. I don't like flying, and I really like trains. I had my Samsung Tab S8 Plus, and I was watching Final Fantasy Van Advent Children with my Bluetooth. Suddenly, I felt something nudging against me. I looked to see a kid, maybe in elementary, trying to look at the movie. So, I turned off my Bluetooth and turned the tablet on to him so he could watch. Sounds weird, but being a teacher here, you get used to it. Anyway, he was really immersed, and though I couldn't understand him, I could tell that he was enjoying it a lot. He was trying to talk to me, but his English wasn't so good, and my Chinese was worse, so he opted for I like this, so cool, me too, and things like that. Very basic English. He was a sweet kid, and he got to watch the whole thing before our stop. He even said Chongqing, and I said me too. He waved goodbye and ran back to his mom, and I began to pack my things so I could get off. Then ... IT happened. A woman approached me with the kid, and in perfect English demanded my tablet. She literally said, "Give me your tablet." I thought I was in the Twilight Zone and wanted to ensure I heard her correctly. "Excuse me? Give me your tablet. I wanted my son to have it." I refused, a simple no. And she said those magic words that I'd begun hating to hear. "But you're a foreigner. You can just buy another one." Now, a couple of things. One, I don't know if the kid really wanted my tablet or not, and frankly I didn't care. Two, I come from a family that has taught me to never let anyone make you feel less than others. If someone tries to take my dignity, it's not going to end well for that person. And no, I don't actually have to fight to get my point across. Fair warning, I'm paraphrasing the confrontation because it lasted a lot longer than I cared for. I said, "No, I can't. I had to save to buy this. You can do the same." "No, you can give yours and stop being selfish." Again, I countered, "Or you can stop being an entitled idiot and buy your own." It was my first time seeing a shocked Pikachu face, and to rub salt in the wound, I added, "Shoo, shoo!" She did go away, only to come back with the police. That I should have seen coming, but I didn't because I was focused on getting off the train. Lucky for me, he also spoke English fluently. He was also really polite and, obviously, not in the mood for any of it. "Sir, this woman says you stole her tablet." I saw the woman behind him with a triumphant smirk while speaking Chinese. I let out a sigh. I had already wasted enough time on this nonsense. So I did what I always did when I wanted to get my point across in the quickest way possible. I turned cold. In fact, my students refer to it as me turning into Bing Yaoshi, ice teacher. I looked at the police officer and said, "I'll make a deal with you. I'm going to use my fingerprint to unlock this tablet. If it doesn't work, she can have it. If it does work, I get to bash her face in." That woman's Pikachu face came back so fast that the officer even had a shocked look. He asked me if I was serious, and I said, "Definitely." I guess the woman saw my face and tried to backpedal, but I wasn't going to let her go until I made my point. When she tried to leave, I said, "Where are you going? I thought you said this was yours." The woman looked to the police for help, but as I said, he was not in the mood and just spoke as she was. She said something in Chinese to the man, only for the man to give a short reply. I guess he wasn't going to entertain this and make sure I didn't hit her. "How dare you? You had the nerve to try to take something that's mine because I'm a foreigner. You're disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself." The woman had a mixture of fear, shock, and anger on her face when I finally asked, "Is this your tablet?" When the woman said no, I leaned my head in towards her and barked, "What was that?" She finally said that the tablet was mine before taking her kid and leaving. The kid did wave goodbye to me despite his mother's objections, and I smiled and waved back. The officer asked me if I was serious about hurting her, and I told him the truth. I wouldn't have hit a woman over an object. He laughed and wished me a happy Chinese New Year. I told my friend about this, and we had a good laugh about it. The next one is an entitled parents story. My 28M stepmother, 49F, is a wannabe party planner. She has taken it upon herself to plan and host every party and holiday my dad's family has thrown since she married him. I never loved those occasions growing up. She's controlling and gets upset if people complain about anything, but humored her for my dad's sake. According to him, this helps her feel included. I'm getting married to my fiancée Jane, 26F, in July. We got engaged in early 2021, but Jane ended up getting pregnant a couple of months after that, and we decided to postpone the wedding to focus on our son for a while. So we've had a long engagement. My stepmother has tried to hijack our wedding plans from day one, complaining, contacting our planner, showing up unannounced to Jane's dress appointments, etc., and we have repeatedly asked her to stop. Dad wants us to humor her, but she's clearly resentful of the fact that she's not hosting the wedding or being labeled mother of the groom in invitations. Besides our baby boy, we also have Luke, 4M, Jane's paternal half-brother. She got custody of him a few months into our relationship after his parents died. I ended up moving in with them during the pandemic and have been in Luke's life since he was a baby. He doesn't call me Dad and refers to us as his sister and his OP, but we love him like a son. Stepmother, though, hates Luke. She accuses Jane of baby-trapping her way into the family. That accusation only got worse after our son was born. My dad gets along with Jane and adores the kids, but stepmother demands him to refuse babysitting Luke so we don't leave the kids with them often. Instead, Jane's brother and CL usually watch the kids for us, as their children are close to ours in age. We had a thing last Sunday, and my BIL was out of town with his family. Jane's other siblings live in different cities, as well as my mom and sister. My dad agreed to babysit at our place, and we left. We came back to find both kids crying, stepmother screaming, and Dad weakly trying to calm everyone down. Apparently Luke had told stepmother that both he and our son were going to be our ring bearers, and she went ballistic. She screamed that she wasn't going to allow that because he wasn't family. She then hit Luke, and he started crying. His lip is still split. She'd never gotten to this point before. We immediately banned her from our house and from our wedding. Dad is fuming and has said he's not going without her. He's also convinced half of his side of the family, by severely downplaying what stepmother did, to boycott the wedding as well. This includes my stepbrother, who fully agrees with his mother no matter how many times I try to tell him the truth. Jane and I are refusing to budge, but many of my cousins who aren't coming anymore are asking us to reconsider. Pretty much all of Jane's family agrees with us, but one of her aunts has suggested that maybe stepmother is acting out because she doesn't feel welcomed by my family. The last one is an entitled people story. I knew a lady who was going through a divorce. I was her tech person when she had a home business, and I was invited to her 40th birthday party. She wanted a new TV plus sound system hooked up and needed my car because the TV would not fit in hers. We went together to pick up the TV, and while she went shopping for food, her ex saw us together. I am married and only helped this person. I hooked up her TV, and after the party, I helped clean up when her friends left. Her ex heard from her friends that I stayed after the party ended. A few weeks later, she asked me to set up a GPS for her car. It was a hot day, and her home's air conditioner had stopped working. I went there and knocked on the door, but she did not answer. I heard the car running in the garage and went back to the door to look in the front window. The house was full of smoke, and I found her passed out on the couch. I picked her up and took her outside. She was breathing and coughing. I went back in, and she had left the car running, with the window down to make the air conditioner cool the house down by the internal access door to the garage. This filled the house with carbon monoxide, which almost killed her. I turned off the car, opened up all the windows and doors, and comforted her. If I had arrived a few minutes later, she would have been dead. She was crying outside because she almost died, and if she had, people would think she deliberately killed herself instead of it being a mistake. At that moment, the ex drove past on one of his stalking runs. Later, I saw him picking up his kids from school, and he called me a cheating prick, which surprised me because we got along before they broke up. He had already been spreading rumors to everyone that I was sleeping with her. He told his whole family, her family, and eventually got to my family. I didn't do anything wrong, and when I told them what really happened, nobody believed me. Everyone believed him that something was happening before they broke up. Then he made up extra reasons to say she was with me. Oddly, my wife is the person who laughed it off because she doesn't believe I would ever cheat on her, especially with that woman. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.